okay? I'm the best charter captain you'll ever meet in your motherfucking life.
All right, bro.
Cuss me out.
Chill, bro. Chill, bro. Please, bro.
Don't hit the fucking mouth.
Please, okay, please, bro. Please, bro. Please, bro. Bro, I'm a kid, bro. Please.
Apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry, bro.
You're gonna cuss me the fuck out.
All right, bro.
In the middle of the
No, bro. Please, bro. Please,
Get back
bro.
to my boat.
Okay. Please.
Fucking apologize.
I'm sorry, bro.
This is a pre-recorded.
That was not me, bro.
Yes, it was.
I know.
This
I was
isn't
here,
live.
but my buddy was
Take
on the
me
boat.
back to my
Yes,
fucking
sir.
boat.
I'm a kid, bro. Please.
I
bro.
don't care. You don't cuss me
Yes,
the fuck
sir.
out.
All right.
Talk shit to me, motherfucker.
Yes, sir.
You don't do it.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so that's a small clip from this viral video that's just been setting my algorithm on fire. In fact, I even asked Steve if he had saw it because he's out in Vegas. I have so many mutual connections in the charter industry that obviously, but it made it all the way to him. It's yeah, it's big news, man. So that was a clip from this viral video that's going around. This kid is fishing. I don't know what led up to the confrontation. Maybe he ran over the guy's line, the charter fishing captain.
Yeah, I think he was running through the line and running fast under the bridge and just messing up his fishing.
Yeah, and so the guy goes absolutely ballistic and boards the kid's boat. And, you know, the kid's obviously in the clip, you can hear him like begging, just like, please, you know, XYZ, come on, I'm sorry. And even before that, you know, the guy's like, I spend 300 days a year on this water and I'm a, you know, special forces, whatever. And the kid's like thanking him for his service. And then they get close and the guy jumps on his boat. And basically the kid's just like standing on the stern of the boat, like basically almost ready to jump in the water, trying to get away from the guy because he's like terrified or whatever. And yeah, so I made a post on it and like we're just getting a ton of engagement on it. So I figured we do something topical as it pertains to water sports and fishing and charters and all this sort of stuff. So you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was Destin. I thought that was a Destin Bridge for like a couple days.
Navarre.
And then I realized that guys from Punta Gorda, this isn't the first time that I've seen a charter captain. There was one maybe 2 or 3 years ago out of Key West. I believe it's Key West where the guy went off on his customers because
he hit the throttle.
Yeah. And it basically, he got canceled as well.
Yeah.
You know, that video went viral.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's so oddly enough, so we just got back from Miami, and so we did one of these Miami like bareboat charters.
Okay.
It's you get like it's like a yacht, basically a 65-foot cabin cruiser, and they take you out to the sandbar. You know, my wife and Steve and Brooklyn, Steven's wife, they really just want to go out and get on the water. And it is simple enough. They do like the whole bareboat agreement. And maybe the guy's got a captain's license, maybe he doesn't. It's not a big deal. It's taking you out to a sandbar, you know, whatever. And, you know, so I was just sort of asking him questions about, you know, wild customers on the opposite side, like what they do. And they get rowdy customers because, you know, you pay for the boat and they could take up to 13 people. So these charters, these 4-hour charters, they're for a group of 12 is not that expensive, maybe 150, 200 bucks a person. And so they get a lot of young people that want to go out, drink on a quote unquote yacht, have a good time. And then this video comes out where it's the opposite. And so I was telling them when we were waiting for the captain, I said, man, I hope it's a young captain. And the reason I said is because like when you get young captains, they're excited. They just got their ticket. They're new to the industry. They want to show you a good time. They're working hard for their tip. Because I told Steve, I was like, a lot of times when you have veteran captains in this industry, 10, 15, 20 years, they're just salty, man. And I got a lot of feedback on the post I make when I use that term salty. And so when I say salty, I just mean like there's varying degrees, right? There's this like,
we talked about this on the podcast about them doing this as a job and that's all they know type of thing, rather than doing it because they love it and they have a passion and they love the industry. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very blue collar insofar as like, if you get like an old electrician or old mechanic or an old plumber, they've been doing it for 25, 30 years or whatever it is. Like they just have zero patience and they probably shouldn't be in customer service. This is obviously a very, very extreme take on this idea. However, I've encountered this multiple times. I've seen angry fishermen, angry day charter, angry parasailboat captains, to the point where they're like rude to the customers. They don't realize they're being rude or they're being short. They just don't have the enthusiasm and zest for it when you go from mate to captain. And, if you don't move past that at some point, or you truly, truly have a love for what you're doing, like you're like, every day is not work. I love being on the water. I can really do this 20 to 30 years. A lot of times it's just not what you think it's going to be. And it gets really stressful and you get a shorter and shorter fuse. And that's what I meant by salty. Obviously, this guy's a complete psycho. He's not just salty.
Yeah, well, he's had arrest records. Yeah, he has a history of like this, this behavior. But well, let's just take it outside this industry, because this is not just a charter problem. This is a problem in all segments of business and companies. So when I was in college, I worked for a restaurant, and you know how it is when you're a college student working at a restaurant and then your coworkers are like in their 50s and they're still serving tables. Nothing against that if you choose that to be your career, but most of those people that I work with were so miserable working. Like they were not enjoyable to be around. They had zero patience for the younger students that were working at the restaurant. And I thought to myself, why are they still here if they absolutely hate this job and they complain and they're a pain in the ass and they give the managers shit? Why are they here still? And it goes back to the fact that this is all they know. This is their comfort zone. And even though they're not making a lot of money, it's just hardwired into them. Like this is their career path. This is all they know. It's very routine for them, and they're never going to leave that profession. And I think goes back to someone who becomes a mate, they become a captain, they become an owner. It's all they do. It's all they know. And they just stop loving it at some point. It was fun, exciting. And then it just became a job and they're stuck in it. And some of that frustration you hear from this captain or even other captains we know of or people in the business, it's that I feel like it's part of it is being stuck. And even even you and I sometimes have these conversations, because there's weeks where we're like, when the regulations are clamping down and the weather sucks, and you hear it from us, right? Like we're just miserable, and we can't just sell the business tomorrow. Can't just get out. Like we have obligations.
Yeah, and you see this really with any small business owner.
Yeah.
And so it's something I think about quite often. I struggle to make a lot of posts like they're in our industry. And I just mean like entrepreneurial. You see a lot of people, they want to get engagement. They're making posts about business and small business. And there gets to a point to where you ask yourself, what's next? What is beyond where I'm at right now? And so you see a lot of these posts and a lot of like entrepreneurial business influencers peddling the same thing over and over and over again. And they're the things I talk about on this show, things about I wrote about in the book. And I don't feel there's that much more to it, right? Then you step into different ideas, right? Like you start thinking about, does your market have significant market size or TAM? Or what's the value of your business? Or how do you franchise your business? Or what's the next step to trying to grow your business? And I think what happens for a lot of small business owners, just like a captain in a boat, just like the plumber that's been at the same job 20 years, they're now going 10, 15 years. Revenues aren't growing. It's become a job. And unless you're truly, truly, truly passionate about what you're doing 20 years in, and money is it's not a motivating factor,
Yeah.
I think it's very easy to feel like you're getting stuck. So when you look at somebody who's got a job inside of a corporation, there's this room for growth. And so while you might feel 5 years, if you're really career oriented, you're say attorney trying to make a partner, or you work in a corporate job and you want to become VP or president or whatever, there's these benchmarks that you're trying to hit. And I think a lot of small business owners just kind of hit this cap where there's not much more they can really do. Right.
Yeah.
Like maybe you
Just
feel like you can't.
imagine if you're in a job that you own the company. You like, it's one thing to have a job you don't like that you could just leave. But
Yeah.
imagine having a job where you can't leave because that is your sole source of income. You have a note on the boat. You have customers on your book. Like there's collateral damage by leaving and just dropping. And you could just walk away and start over, but financially it'd be difficult. So there would be hardship where you could leave the job and get rehired and be fine, or you can Uber on the side or whatever. But that is a position that a lot of us are stuck in. And the question is if you're in that situation, how do you get out? That's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah. And I think seeing the signs of it are really important. So if you find yourself getting short with, it really starts at the customer service level. And this is something I've talked about in reviews. When people get defensive in their reviews, because you're putting your customers into these categories, these archetypes, if you will. And it's not Sally didn't sign the waiver or forgot to take the boater safety test or any one of those things. It's that this is the 75th time that this has happened this season. Why are you people like this? Why do you guys start doing this? This is just a common mistake. And so I always really put it back onto us. And circling back to what I was talking about, one of these sort of entrepreneurial ideas in small business that got passed down is like SOPs and systems and processes. So when you have Sally or Jim committing the same offense, I'll put that in air quotes, or not paying attention, then what was your part in the communication breakdown? So it's something that you have to solve for. If somebody's doing the same thing over and over and over again that you don't want them to do, then it's on you to fix that communication block. And once that's been solved for, and once you've optimized your business, you feel like front and back, customer service, employees, everybody's fulfilled, and you've optimized your books and you have your bottom line. Now the question is, where do we go from here? What's the next business, or how do we scale out, or how do we be multi-location? And it's very challenging in this space to be multi-location. It's not like you can put water sports anywhere. You have to have water. And then on the de-evolution, or the next step down from that, is charter, where you're an owner-operated boat. You're doing all of the work. You don't have a captain that is, let's say, 24, 25, or hits that sweet spot, that knows how to fish, that knows how to have great customer service, or knows how to work on the boats, or whatever it is, somebody that can run this whole side of things. You still be able to be profitable and start the next step in your charter business, because you see so many owner operator charters that have gone down this path for 10, 15, 20 years, and they can't seem to get unstuck from what is ostensibly now just another day job. Yeah.
Well, you made another point about the employees. If you find yourself, it's one thing to find yourself, calling your customer stupid and just kind of blaming them for a lot of problems. But when you're, at your booth or at your place of business, and you are letting your employees know how miserable you are or how the company's not making money, that's another sign that there is a problem. And I see this a lot. Like I've been at companies where the owner goes to the employees, is like, we're losing money, and just basically making them all feel like they're scared about their employment future. Yeah. And And if like when you're complaining about your customers and how no one's booking and everything, that is something that you have to hold to yourself and your business partners and not bring your customers, employees in it, because nothing screams insecurity by saying that. And no one wants to work for someone if they feel like, okay, well, I'd be here for 6 months. And this is more of a sign of burnout as well, which, could also, turn into what we just saw with this charter captain, where he sounds like he is tired. Like that shouldn't have triggered him like that, or maybe it did, I don't know.
So there's a whole chain of events that lead up to something like this for this guy, right? And I've seen all the posts going around saying like he's got like DUIs, and it's something we've addressed on the show before. Is the level of alcoholism that's so prevalent in this industry. There is. Like even when we went on this charter, right? The first thing the captain was like, yeah, you guys, have some drinks, have some beers, get drunk. Like boating and drinking are synonymous with one another. Yeah. Insofar as that we have to have, NASBA does events every year, local municipalities, are constantly addressing this issue of drinking and boating. Because realistically, unless you're going out there wakeboarding, even if you're going out there fishing, if there's like a part of you just sitting around on a boat on the water, like what better goes with being on a boat on the water than drinking? And I routinely get a hard time that I don't like boating. Well, when you get rid of the drinking, boating is just, especially if you're not doing an activity, it's just you sitting out there. You're just sitting on hot vinyl for 3 or 4 hours in the sun, and not maybe scrolling your phone. But if you're not drinking, so in that, what goes with that is the allure to a certain type of personality. Right? Happy hour, going on the boat and drinking. You're like, if this is what you do, that like there's never been a beer that tastes as good as after like a 12-hour shift, sitting on your boat, getting the day done. I mean, it feels great. But then it becomes, especially when you're cranking 6-7 days a week. And with this particular captain, it looks like he does, as many captains do, have a very long history with alcohol. And so even if he was dead sober on that boat, he's probably hung over. He's been, 300 days on the water. Well, 300 days on the water is also probably 300 days of drinking as well to sort of, untie that knot that wells up in you when you're working that much out in the sun. And so, I don't give the guy like a break, because obviously like that's insanity. And, he's lucky that was some kid and not. I had a lot of comments. Like someone was like, well, what would you
really
have done?
Think the kid is completely innocent? He seemed to be like a mouthy teenager.
Yeah, I think he's innocent insofar as that what he did. And obviously this is like I'm not saying anybody do this, but I mean, in Florida, you stand your ground, and that boat is an extension of your house, an extension of your car. If that were me and I had my family on the boat and he jumped on my boat, this would have been a different story. It would have been about his burial, because I would have shot him on the spot, because it's like the same as somebody breaking into your house. And he's really lucky that that's not the way this story ended, because he probably would have been justified, the kid, in shooting him. So again, I'm not saying that, but it is, depending on the situation, a stand your ground type of situation where, and a lot of captains, a lot of comments I saw were made that like, yeah, I keep a gun on my boat.
Yeah. Legally. I mean, but if I were that kid, I would have shut my mouth and just moved on. And he kept mouthing off to him. So I mean,
but
the captain was older, and he should have been the responsible and the more mature one. But that kid needed to shut his mouth.
Well, I can't tell you. So to circle this all back, I had a lot of comments and DMs that were like, oh, come on, Kevin, you of all people, like you were this guy. You're the one who got so angry. And I have, man, I've approached people on the docks. And in fact, like one story comes to mind. I was pegged up in a pair, like I really couldn't move. And I had a big catamaran, and I couldn't, like I was a rookie captain. I really didn't know how to navigate, but I felt stuck. And I just stayed where I was and made him go around me. And he came over the radio and he was like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And if you want to meet me on the dock, this is my name, and I'll be over at a dock. He was quite surprised when he threw his lines that I was standing there on the dock waiting for him to come in. And I was like, hey, man, hi. You know what I mean? I'm Kevin. You told me to come meet you at your dock. So here I am, motherfucker. You know, like, where's your fucking mouth now? And so, like, but that was all to a point to say that, like, I was that captain because I was severely burned out and I was super stressed out and I was working a ton of hours and I was a hothead. Not to that, I would never jump aboard someone's boat and try to fight them. But I mean, I would definitely meet you at the dock, and I've tuned up mates. I've had issues with mates, and I've knocked a mate out on the dock. So I get a lot of people that are like, "Oh, really, Kevin? You're Mr. holier than thou," and I'm like, "No, I just realized that I needed to move on in my career because just driving a boat 7 days a week or 6 days a week wasn't doing it for me. I was burned out and I wasn't happy, so I had to grow."
You know what? I remember a few years ago at the port, we had Pete Syme do a presentation, and Pete was talking about like your legacy, and he broke down kind of like how many weeks we have left to live. And it was a very inspirational discussion. And, sometimes I have to stop and think about my own situation of like how much time I'm putting in to things that I don't love doing. But I have to, because I have commitments to them. And it's really amazing to see people that will fish 30, 40 years. And I know they don't like it anymore. Like they are so over it, but that's how they put food on the table. That's how they support their families and put their kids through college and all that stuff. And it's unfortunate that we get put in these situations as professionals.
And
pull ourselves out of, and really the answer to this is to commit to your decision. Okay, I'm going to get out, but there has to be a plan. So if I'm at that breaking point in my career, then the first step, like you said, is acknowledging that you have a problem. And I think most of us can easily acknowledge by just looking inside, looking at our behavior. Are we lashing out at our family, our employees, our customers? Are we talking negatively about the business? And I know there's some people that listen that I can probably say that's the case. And if you have acknowledged of that, then it's time to start planning. And you don't think that this is going to happen tomorrow. Maybe the first step is you can step out of the business. Is that something? Can you hire someone to replace you? Maybe you'll make a little bit less, but you'll maybe have a little bit less stress. If you can't figure that out, then next step could be selling the business, taking on a partner so you can get out. There's all sorts of things, but the first step is acknowledging, and the second step is coming up with a plan. Just yesterday, I was a little stressed because I have a lot of features on our roadmap for WaveRes, and I'm like, man, there's so many features that our customers want, and how do I get these all done? And I was stressed because there's only so much time before the next sales cycle comes. And I just took a moment. I planned it all out with my team. I had meetings, and we just came up with this really solid plan. And within 24 hours, I went from being overwhelmed and stressed to feeling very motivated and excited just from planning, getting good sleep. That's a huge thing. I don't drink, so I know that if I was drinking, that would be one thing that I would definitely fix, because when you drink, you don't sleep well. If you don't sleep well, you can't focus. And sleeping is probably 75% of my problem with stress is not good sleep. But then I'm not thinking and coming like prepared to work, to plan and get through these things.
Yeah. So also for you have to keep in mind though, you have, and it was something we talked a couple podcasts about, like growth versus scalability. You have a scalable product. So you have sort of ways out of this to where you have new, like you said, you're road mapping your new features. So you're thinking about like creative ways that you can grow and scale your business. So with charters and specifically water sports, unless you get into other offerings, and I think this is where it becomes really challenging for people, because they associate those other offerings with these same kind of headaches. There's like a growth stop. So I'm going to put like another $500,000 into a boat. This boat's only going to be able to make so much. I'm going to have to hire again. And I think it's like, yes, it's exciting and in some regards, but then in other regards, you can kind of go back to this sort of cycle that you get trapped in your head, and you're just like, man, well, at least for me, where I'm like, oh my God, like this suffers all the same problems that my current seasonal business does. So I always try to think of something that's like not water sport related or not tied to my same docks or location. Like what else can I do that I can continue to grow revenues that doesn't have this cap for every amount of for every reinvestment I have to do. And so I just mean to say that, like, obviously any business, if you're going to scale, is going to require reinvestment. But I mean, there's just a certain cap on the amount of money that you're going to be able to get back from that reinvestment. It's not going to be like, oh, we're going to sell more widgets or, what have you. But something I also wanted to add, I think that does sort of keep things fresh, is if you do stay learning and you do stay going to events. And it's not a way for me to sell the port or sell my book or anything like that. But I truly believe that, like, if you stay curious and you stay interested, it just, again, in how you can make things, maybe it's like water sport adjacent, or there's a piece of it that you don't know about that you're like, I'm scared to learn about this. And then you get into understanding a little bit better. It makes things easier to solve. But for a lot of water sport operators and charter operators, they don't see it like, oh, I'm going to go learn like SEO or marketing. They're like, it's just another bill. So it's another investment. Yeah. It's like, man, I don't want to spend another 20 or 30 grand investing into a marketing company, rather than taking the time to maybe learn about it and get involved a little bit more on that side of it. Because again, at a certain age, learning does become a lot more difficult and information retention is a lot harder. And you see a lot of guys that late 40s, 50s, older, that are just like, man, I'm tired.
Yeah. I noticed this thing when you start a business and you're younger, I would say younger, like under 40, there's this like quick run up on educating yourself on all sorts of things. Marketing, you basically get updated on every single thing you need, because you're starting a business. You need to know a lot of things. And then as you run the business for years and years, your capacity to learn new information starts declining every single year. And I've noticed this, like when we started Trip Shock, I was on the forefront of everything you can think of when it comes to digital marketing, everything. And then as the years went by, I started to, work on my business, not in my business. So I'm not keeping myself abreast. And I've hired people to do these tasks, but I did notice that I was starting to lose my, what I knew to really build my business. And now I'm having to get back and learn it all again, because AI has totally disrupted that cycle. So now I'm getting back into it again and learning all that stuff, and everything has changed. And in a year from now, everything will change. And again, like the rate of change is happening so fast than it did 10 years ago. It's like, it's almost impossible now to keep up with that as an individual. So, there's going to be tools out there, like I was telling Kevin, that I'm not going to say it on the show, but there's going to be a lot of changes in all aspects of our businesses, with AI, and a lot of those jobs that we now have won't be the same. And
I don't think anything's going to be the same, honestly. And like, you can keep your marketing ninja secret to yourself, but it really is going to get to the point where it's not going to matter, because all this is going to be so intuitive. You're just going to be like, this is what I want. And you're going to be able to have like a conversation with an AI assistant, and it's going to optimize that for you.
I'm already doing that now. I mean, yeah. So one thing I wanted to mention, obviously,
no rabbit holes on AI, fucker.
No rabbit holes. I'm gonna say this. So Mastering OTAs, my book, I had one of my listeners, or not listeners, but one of the readers of the book reached out and asked if I had a GPT for the book. And I'm like, I don't even know how to create that. And basically, he took my book, he loaded it into a custom GPT, and we created some instructions. And now you can ask questions about your OTA listings and your OTA strategy. And using the information from my book, it can respond and it's like basically a consult or a consultant. And it is amazing. It's about 95% accurate. It's even better than I could answer it. I actually helped Steve Edwards the other day. He asked me some questions about one of his clients, and I gave him a complete strategy in 5 minutes just from using my GPT. So if you bought my book, then I will give you access to the custom GPT. And be honest, it really, the book is great, but you don't even have to read the book now. You can just buy the book, get the GPT. And
if you need a fucking book and a chat GPT to fucking sell your products on goddamn marketplace, then you fucking might be overthinking things a little bit.
No, but really what it came down to is that the GPT is the value. You can drop your OTA listings in it. It can break down everything that's right.
Stop with your GPTs. You're
I'm
getting us
telling
off
you.
track. I know you love it.
I love
technology.
It's awesome. I love it. I mean, ChatGPT, I use it all day. It saves me a ton of time. So we're integrating TMBT into WaveRes, and I created a prototype with Bolt. So Bolt is a AI. I'm on my, let me just get this out. So Bolt.new is the AI code builder. So if you want to create like a prototype or an app or a website, you just go in there and tell it what you want it to build, and it will build it. So I built a prototype for the integration with TMBT for WaveRes. And also I used ChatGPT to write the specs using the prototype. I literally built this in like a day. You know how long?
I bet you got a fucking Kevin GPT, you sick fuck. You probably sit there and talk to my GPT like.
Oh wait, this is not. The best part is not even yet. I took all of our episodes, the transcripts from all of our episodes, and I loaded it in. Actually, I haven't finished all of it yet, but I loaded like 10 of them in, and there's going to be an AWG GPT. So all the conversations that we've had, 177 episodes, are going to be on this GPT. And you can ask it questions and it will take all that knowledge, and it's like a consultant. We haven't figured out how to deploy this, but Kevin, it is amazing. I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah. So I guess if we ever want to sell our consultancy services, we're just up shit's creek. This is my last episode of the Awkward Watersports Guys.
But you need the podcast in order to fill, but it's incredible. It's incredible. Anything you want to know about leases or all that, like all the stuff that we talked about is literally on this GPT, and you can have like a conversation with it. It's freaking incredible.
Yeah, it sounds super fucking boring. I feel like I talk enough about water sports with the original fucking GPT. Greg practices teaching.
Do you know what GPT stands for?
Yeah, was it general something? I don't know. Nope. What does it stand for? GPT?
Generative pre-trained transformer, I think.
Neat. So cool. So cool. The world's fucking coming to an end, but you know.
How's our stocks doing?
God, really? I actually, so I switched phones and needed to get authorization on the other phones. I'm just not looking, dude. I've turned it off. I know things are bad and I'm just whatever. I'm DCing like I always do. I'm not changing my routine, just investing and fucking, keeping my fingers crossed.
Are you going to DCA in after today? It dropped 1,600 points, the Dow.
No, I didn't hear that.
I think you should DCA in it.
The Dow dropped 1,600?
Yep.
That's rough. What is that, the largest fall since 2008?
The biggest wipeout since 2020.
Nice. All right. Well, that's fun. I'm gonna go assault a miner on a fishing boat, I guess. Fucking
watersportpodcast.com. We got the port tickets are now live officially. I will have the hotel lodging link. So we have the Sheraton, which is across the street, and then we have the Emerald Grand that has some 2, 3, and 4 bedroom condos on the Destin Harbor. So we'll have 2 different options, and Emerald Coast Convention Center or the Destin Fort Walton Beach Convention Center. I think they renamed it. That's where we'll have the event, October 20th and the 21st. And it's $50. If you buy before May 1st, you save $50 on the ticket. So like, why wait and spend $50 more? So get your tickets, watersportpodcast.com, 2025 conference. And
get them now before I'm homeless.
Yeah, we need to make sure we get them soon, so Kevin's portfolio doesn't go to zero. He needs money to DCA in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, buddy. I'm out of here.
All right, everybody. Keep it awkward.